ever wondered why some gardens seem to hum with life, literally, buzzing with bees, fluttering with butterflies, and singing with the birds? The secret lies in understanding the extraordinary relationship between plants and pollinators, one that has shaped our planet for millions of years. So, join me on a brief journey through your own backyard ecosystem, where every thoughtful plant choice becomes an invitation to the fascinating world of pollinators, creating not just a garden, but a sanctuary where both wildlife and humans can thrive. Most of the gardeners that I encounter through my gardening business want ornamental gardens, meaning that these gardens are going to include flowers and ground covers and shrubs, trees, and vine versus kitchen gardens that would have fruits and vegetables. And in addition to increasing resale value with professional landscaping and mature trees, ornamental gardens have other benefits as well. I found a couple statistics I want to share. Properties with gardens reduce stress hormones up to 21% for residents. And I can attest to that because first thing that I like to do in the morning is get a cup of coffee and walk outside amongst my garden and look at how everything is doing, do a little deadheading, pull some weeds. It's a great way to start the day. And then on another note, NASA scientists found 50 plants and flowers that filter out pollutants that cause allergies, colds, fatigues, and headaches. So there's those health benefits as well. Professional landscaping can increase property values by 5 to 12%, according to the American Society of Landscape Architects. And of course, plants and trees provide food and shelter for wildlife, which we're going to talk about much more in this presentation. Okay, so what is the literal buzz about pollinators? If you had asked me a year ago to name pollinators, I would have said butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds. And I think that's what most people would respond. I had no idea that flies, wasps, and beetles are also considered pollinators. So I have a different regard towards them now when I do encounter them in my garden, knowing that they are serving beneficial purposes there. Pollinators are animals, 99.5% are insects. The other 0.505% are birds that move pollen from male parts of flowers to female parts of flowers, enabling plant fertilization and seed production. So that's the biology definition for pollinators. What I learned recently in the Master Gardener program is that pollinators have a huge impact on our global food supply. They're responsible for reproducing approximately 90% of the world's flowering plants and trees, including fruits and vegetables, and they contribute to 35% of global food production. So having pollinators in your garden is a much bigger picture than your own yard. So how do you bring pollinators into your garden? Well, you simply need to supply what they need. And they're very simple insects. They need three things. Number one is food, nectar producing species, meaning flowers, blooms. They need water, and that can be provided to them with a bird bath or just a container of water, or you could have a little pond or something of that nature. And then nesting sites, which are also known as habitats. And that could be a bee house. That could be the rocks that you have in a garden bed or large boulders in your landscape for them to just, take a break and take a rest for a little bit. And then ornamental grass. Ornamental grass is a great example of a plant that is non-flowering, but it brings pollinators into the garden as a habitat. Okay. Another good way to attract pollinators to your garden is by using native plants. Native plant gardens support 3 to 5 times more bird and butterfly species as sources of food and habitats than non-native gardens. And a native plant is defined as one that originated or has been present in a specific region for a long period of time. Now, that's not to say that non-native plants won't attract pollinators, because my hardy hibiscus and my vitex tree are huge pollinator magnets for my yard. But native plants bring a lot more benefits to the Texas gardener. And as a Texas master gardener, one of my roles is to educate people about the benefits of using native plants. And not to worry, Texas has hundreds, if not thousands, of native plants available to fill your garden. So don't think that there's only, 10 or 12 options. So Texas native plants are low maintenance and Texas tough. When I walk into my garden in August and look around to see what's, still blooming and thriving, it's my Texas lantana, it's my Turk's cap, it's my salvia. They act like it's April, not August. And Texas native plants adapt to our typical clay soil much better than non-native plants. Native plants are very drought tolerant, don't require near as much water as those tropical plants. They're a wildlife habitat. Native plants are resistant to pests and diseases, which means that that's less use of herbicides and insecticides, and of course, provide food for pollinators. Okay, these next two slides are my personal plant list for pollinators on plants that I've either used or have seen firsthand that work in gardens in Tarrant County, Zone 8B. Now, this is by no means a comprehensive list at all. And I will provide some resources at the end where you can go do some more research on native plants. And I've organized my list into annuals, perennials, shrubs, and ornamental trees. So annual wildflowers, these are just a handful that I have used. The picture of me is from last summer with my black-eyed Susans. And yes, I can attest that it is an annual because it bit the dust at the first freeze, and of course did not come back. Native perennial plants will be my longest list. There's so many, and just depending on the color or the type of bloom or when you want them to bloom, you can have a year-round garden full of perennial plants. And then something that I want to point out, because I've had this question come up before, is, well, I have a lot of shade in my yard. So what can I plant to attract pollinators? Because, it lends itself that, most flowers that bloom require sun. So, the more sun you get, the more your plants are going to bloom and the more pollinators that they are going to attract. But there are some plants that do bloom specifically in shade. Columbine is an excellent example of that. And another one is Turk's cap. My Turk's cap is in partial shade, but I know people who have it in full shade. I know people who have it in full sun, and it does well everywhere. So that is a fantastic native Texas plant that everybody can use in their landscape. Coral honeysuckle is a climbing vine that is also good. Mine is in mostly shade. It's planted on a trellis underneath a huge oak tree in my yard, but it's on the west side of my house. So it doesn't get sun until very late in the afternoon, but it gets the hottest sun of the day. And then I also have here on the list wood fern, because wood fern is a native Texas plant, but it's on the list not because it's not a food source for pollinators, but it's a habitat source for food for pollinators. So if you have a lot of shade, that's really how you need to look at the situation. Maybe you're not going to be able to have as many food sources in your garden, but you can have sources of habitat and water to attract pollinators. And then here are my lists of native shrubs and grasses. The American beautyberry is a great shrub that likes shade. And then the Mexican feathergrass and the inland sea oats are ornamental grasses that are great examples for habitat. And then native ornamental trees. Here I am with my desert willow that I bought last summer. It's called, the variety is Sweet Bubba desert willow. It's got these amazing pink blooms on here. I love it. It's a very fast growing tree. It does not need hardly any water. In fact, they say that a desert willow doesn't need any more than rainwater. So don't put it next to a sprinkler head. But it is deciduous, so it loses its leaves. But mine has already come back and going gangbusters. Does need full sun, very dry conditions. And then some other ones are the Texas mountain laurel, the Mexican plum, the Yupon holly, and the Texas redbud. All of these can take some shade. I have a Texas redbud, and it does get shade for a portion of the day. And then this is a great example of a pollinator garden in the south of Texas. At Bobcat Center. It's about a quarter of an acre, and it is maintained by the Tarrant and Denton County Master Gardener Association. So I have been volunteering there once a month on designated work days, and it's full of native plants. There's some sun drops. There's some autumn sage. There's rocks and water sources right there on both sides of the path, which again helps attract the pollinators. There's some beautiful salvia right there, some more sundrops that looks like catmint, and then there, that is bronze fennel right there, and it had 6 caterpillars, swallowtail caterpillars on it that morning before I took this video. So this garden is it's a great source of inspiration. It's open to the public, and you can also come and just look at the plants are labeled, so you can see what's what, and kind of what the different native plants look like once they're established and blooming. Okay, so what about the insects that you don't want to attract to your garden? I'm sure mosquitoes are the first thing that come to everybody's mind, because mosquitoes are not pollinators by any stretch of the imagination. So here are some options instead of hosing yourself down with insect repellent, or covering your yard and garden in chemicals. Here's some natural pest management solutions. I've got 6 plants up here: citronella grass, lemon balm, marigold, lavender, and then 2 herbs, rosemary and basil. And I did a little bit of research to find out exactly why these plants do repel mosquitoes. And this is what I found. Citronella grass and lemon balm contain citronellal oil that masks scents mosquitoes are attracted to, which disrupts their ability to locate hosts, meaning your arm or your leg. Marigolds produce pyrethrum, a compound used in many insect repellents. Lavender contains linalool and camphor that mosquitoes find highly repellent. And rosemary and basil contain, I don't know, something that I can't pronounce, that's proven to be 10 times more effective than DEET. So I would say try all of them and use a lot of them. Other things you could do is, of course, eliminate standing water. So if you are going to provide a water source, such as a bird bath or containers or whatnot, be sure you empty them every couple of days. Natural predators, dragonflies and purple martins are great ways to repel mosquitoes. Physical barriers such as ceiling fans on patios that keep the air moving. And then if you do need to spray yourself, use a natural spray, non-toxic spray. So how to create a pollinator paradise. Man, I could do a whole presentation on this, but as a Texas Master Gardener, I use the principles of earth-kind landscaping to create easy care gardens that conserve natural resources and protect the environment. You can Google earth-kind landscaping and find out all about it. It was developed by Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, which is the extension, the arm of Texas A&M University that administers the Texas Master Gardener program. So it's very horticultural, very research, data backed. But there's a lot to it. So I have boiled it down to 3 main points here. Number 1, the first thing you need to do is plan your garden. not just run out to the nursery and buy all these plants. Create a design based on the space that you have available, the placement, what direction is it going to face, meaning how much sun or shade, a water source, existing trees and plants that are in the space, and whether or not you want to keep them or move them or transplant them, how the space will be utilized, and maintenance of the space. When I'm working with a client to design a garden, they want to do everything. They've got all these ideas and just, which is great. They're inspired. But what I tell them is the bigger the garden, the more the work. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend starting small. Start with one bed or one raised bed, and then go from there. The second step is to prepare. You must lay a good foundation to ensure long-term success of your garden. Probably the biggest thing that I learned in the Texas Master Gardener training program was that the most critical element to success in a garden is your soil. If your soil is crap, your plants are going to be crap. And this is especially true if you're building a new bed, or if it's a new construction home that the builders just threw in, just fill dirt, or if it's an existing bed but it hasn't been maintained or used or had mulch in it for many years. You've got to spend some time amending the soil, putting compost and nutrients in it. Ideally, you would get a soil sample done, and you can do that again through Texas A&M University. Send it to the lab. I did that as part of my Master Gardener program and learned that the pH of my soil is 7.5, which explained why I cannot grow hydrangeas because they do not like a soil pH above like 6 or 6.5. So anyway, getting your soil tested will tell you a lot, and exactly what you need to add to your soil to get it ready to plant. And then beyond that, slow release fertilizer, and then of course irrigation. And then the last step is to plant. If you learn nothing else from this presentation, please remember this. The secret to a successful garden is putting the right plant in the right place, according to sun requirements, water needs, and the mature height and width. That's so important. You have to give your plants room to grow. And then these are the resources that I use for this presentation. The Native Plant Society of Texas. They have a database. You can go in there and search native plants, or you can also download PDF files with lists and lists and lists of native plants. And then, Landscaping with Native Plants of Texas is a great book. I ordered it last summer off Amazon. I highly recommend it. And then the Denton County Master Gardener Association has a fantastic website. Lots of resources, lots of downloads, lots of presentations. You can search for pollinators, native plants, exactly what you're looking for. And there is my contact information. If you would like to get in touch with me or follow me on Instagram, or need garden consulting, design, or installation in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I'd love to connect with you.